in a very non-typical to the NFT space, because he has plans in that NFT space himself as well. And it'll just be quite interesting to get an idea of how these things can connect. So you guys know me, maybe. I'm Daniel, the CEO and one of the co-founders at tudaBird's Meta Nest. And so I'm going to pass it over to Kevin to give a quick introduction about himself and answer this interesting question about how that blockchain world connects crypto into the metaverse and NFT space. Kevin, please.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Kevin Yunai here from BACD. I started BACD 4 years ago, and since then we have been working very closely with a lot of different partners, among others, tudaBirds, and we have created this ecosystem, as Daniel correctly said before, where we can tokenize assets, we can invest with our investors in tokenized assets, and also store value assets such as Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum. And we also have built quite unique systems around investment, such as dashboards where you can follow your investment, voting system. So all in all, we have built a
We lost you, Kevin. Well, rather than have silence, I'll talk until Kevin comes back a little bit. There's clearly some technical glitches on the other side, and we were working earlier to try to get them sorted out. So again, we apologize for that. I've been actually advising Kevin Wood back for the last few years as well, and I think he's back. So go ahead, Kevin.
Can you hear me? No, I
yes,
think there was a fallout. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so
we are gone again, Kevin. I think you must have an application that's taking your mic away or something, or something into that effect. It's the only thing I can figure out if you keep coming out and in. I think Kevin's just resetting and he'll come right back, we hope. While we wait for Kevin to re-arrive, I just wanted to show you guys a little bit around this space. Kevin, I think you're here, but maybe you're just muted. Try again, Kevin. I think that was my fault that time. There you go. Sorry, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So, yeah, this is the beginning of the metaverse. So there will, of course, be some technical issues, but it's a really, really beautiful platform you guys have created, Daniel.
Thank you.
My name is Kevin Yunai. I'm the founder of BACD, an alternative investment fund on the blockchain. We are specializing in investing in digital assets and private equity. We have, over the last 4 years, been building on this ecosystem it's cutting me off here. We have our own tokenization platform. We have our own tokens on several blockchains, and we are listing on Pink Sale here the 14th. So it's indeed very interesting time for us. So when you invest in these new opportunities like metaverse, NFTs, cryptocurrencies, and so on, it's very important that you really do your due diligence, and that is one of the things that we do at BACD. We really have a deep due diligence into the different opportunities. Tudabird is one of the great opportunities to invest in, and we really take pride in really doing our due diligence before we enter any investment. And so far it's been going really good. We have returns of approximately 30%, even though we have had a crypto winter. But overall, it's looking really good for us, and we hope with the new coming listings, that we will really be able to attract a lot of very strong investors. Yeah.
So how does this connect into the land of the metaverse? And how are you? I know you have plans to work with NFTs. Some of them just images and not apes, but maybe Danes. But how are you planning on using NFTs in the security asset space beyond just the art elements of things?
So as Goldman Sachs and all the other big investors say, is that the metaverse is going to be $1 trillion, maybe quadrillion dollar industry in the years to come. So no doubt that when we look at how do we allocate our portfolio, metaverse is definitely one of the places where we think there will be a big upside. It's still you can say in its early stages. So before mass adoption really takes off, that will probably go some time. We can see that Sandbox and other platforms like Decentraland and others, they are booming and it's growing really fast. And we see celebrity adapting, and there's a big movement right now into these different platforms. We ourselves are also looking and right now doing our own NFT collection that is also going to be shared with the Tudaverse community, and we can do some use of the Tudaverse technologies, hopefully to help distribute our NFTs. But to your question, Daniel, I think that that NFTs plays a central role in the way you invest in the future. We are not strongest believers of these NFT art collections being listed on all the OpenSea and all the other platforms. We take it with some caution because there has been many scams, as you know. But the real NFT projects and the NFT technology and possibilities in itself, that's what we think is very interesting.
I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to say that we know there's all kinds of messiness and all kinds of scams and things that they talk about in the press. I had somebody on LinkedIn yesterday was saying that 99% of NFT projects are scams, which is an absolute exaggeration. We have the people talking about the environmental issues, but if you compare the actual environmental impact of all cryptocurrencies and all flavors of blockchains compared to what YouTube and Facebook alone do, compared to what the MasterCard and Visa do in terms of a carbon footprint, there's no comparison. We've learned that money laundering on the blockchain doesn't work for people. The criminals are stopping to use it because they can be hunted down and caught, right? They can be transacted. There are a few systems like Monero that are made for criminals that I imagine will eventually get shut down in some way, or the feds in the different states will figure out ways to track through there because they are made for money laundering. but it's the fraction of money laundering in crypto is infinitesimally smaller to the people with suitcases full of cash, which can never be tracked. So that's one part of it. The NFT element that I'm interested in for your space is related to the smart contract and using NFTs to represent assets. And if we just use art as an example, one of our partners, Artex, they are using a blockchain-based exchange similar to a stock exchange for fine art. And this allows crypto and non-crypto people to buy, to bid, to auction, to sell art through the blockchain as well as through the physical world. They have an angle that allows you to get an NFT along with the physical art that you have. But if you carry NFTs a little bit further, I mean, an NFT provided to me that is an irrefutable and immutable piece of the blockchain that says I own 1% of this business. And if I don't hold that in my wallet, I don't get to vote. And the business then becomes a DAO, which is a distributed autonomous organization controlled by or allowing the levels of control that they give to the shareholders. So this is where NFTs come into play for some of that stuff. So I think that if you were selling back as a business and you made 100 shares, so creating those 100 shares as NFTs and distributing them to the different owners, then I am freely able to take my 1% or buy more or do it anonymously or not, and I can trade it as I please, and the market will allow the price to be settled based demand and based on supply. Except you don't have all of these hedge fund guys being able to manipulate and control things like they do today. So NFTs combined with cryptocurrency are actually a huge part of the answer to all of the woes, even the ones that you just talked about in the art space, where, I mean, sorry, there are a lot of scams that are out there. And the biggest scams are the richest guys that are buying and selling their own NFTs and increasing the value to make the poor fools out there that are chasing after them think that they're worth more money than they are. They're doing this falsely. So if you're doing that with a security of a business, that 100 shares of your company that I just used as an example, tell me how you can control that from happening. Because if I've got 10 of those 100 and I buy one myself for twice the price and I'm increasing the value of it falsely, that it's not that different to what people can do on the stock market, but on the stock market it can be tracked and controlled and paid more attention to. How are you going to manage that element of digitizing securities for the safety of the users as opposed to for the benefit of the rich?
No, it's a very interesting question, and it's definitely something that we think a lot about, how to take our back shares and as we go along and we come further in our milestones, we actually also have thought about maybe attaching an NFT to the shares so that there is some at least physical evidence that they are yours, more than just them being on your wallet. And it could be a great idea to maybe visualize them by doing an NFT, and then you can trade them, knowing that they are attached to that amount of tokens that are issued to that particular investor. So it's definitely a good suggestion to how we could improve the back share token as an asset, and definitely something we could speak about, Daniel. But also I think that we shouldn't forget that an NFT is a program, and you can basically do a lot of amazing things with a given NFT. It's been considered just an art piece right now by most people. That's the narrative when they see an NFT, but you can actually do a lot of different things when you code your NFT. So I think we should be seeing a lot more than art in the NFT space. and that's when it's really becoming interesting, when we start to NFT ownership, legal claims, and all these things. Then we really have.
But it's not a matter of when it starts or that we should start, because it has, right?
It has, yeah.
Like real estate. The conversation we had in this room on Friday night, we talked about corrupt practices in real estate sales, specific to Nigeria, but they happen everywhere. It's just the gentleman I was speaking with was Nigerian. So somebody will buy a piece of land, they'll parcel it out into 100 pieces. So just think NFTs if you want. And then he'll go off and he'll buy 10 of them for an inflated price, and then people will see the price going up, so they'll go and chase after it because they think the price has gone up. We know that happens with the NFTs as well. We need elements to be able to control and manage that sort of thing, which is the tracking of it. And this is where some of these things need to be not anonymous. There are many things in the space that should be, but I think that when it comes down to connecting digital representation of physical assets, there needs to be some tie back to the to elements of the old world to be able to do that. Now, for TudaBirds, one of the projects that we have planned for a later phase, and it's really not rocket science to do it, but we know everybody likes to share their stuff on Facebook and Insta and TikTok and everything else. Well, there are a lot of people that have collections of things, whether it's first edition books or coins or stamps or Star Wars figurines. What we're looking at is the ability for these people to create NFTs representing their physical product, and then they have the NFT and the physical product, and they can show this as their collection that they want to show off in their own gallery in one of our rooms in the MetaNest. Maybe we set up a gallery for users, or they buy their own virtual game room to do this in. Another element of that is that then there's an expert. Say you're a comic book collector, Kevin, and you've got 10 of the early Superman #1, and you've had them assayed as worth a certain amount of value. Well, you can get that expert to give you the attestation that can be then converted into an NFT as a PDF that he has signed digitally, that goes with the physical item and shows people that are buying it that there's this proof of the value. And then when you buy the physical, that proof of the value goes along with the digital. The business angle we have with that is that we would create this community where maybe I'm the comic book expert and you're the comic book owner, and you pay me a small amount to determine the value, just like you would a real estate investor, or just like you would with the books of a company to value a stock as they announce their yearly earnings and so on. But me, the expert, would then have an attachment to you, the owner, and the NFT and the physical. And then if you put it for sale, you've got me saying what it's worth and providing that expert value to it, which protects the next person that buys it for knowing what it's worth. Right? So this type of a connection is great. But again, when it comes to stocks and securities, are you worried about the manipulation of the market, like the whitewashing of NFTs that we see? Is that going to be a concern in the space of securities being digitized? What are the elements that, if I buy stocks, my name is registered, but if I buy NFTs representing stocks, it isn't. So how do you answer that one?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we are in favor of a stronger regulation on the crypto industry in general. So we appreciate the movement that has been initiated by the EU, among others, to really try to find common ground for a more compliant and regulated way of doing crypto in general. This said, when we look at securities as an asset and a tokenized asset, and how to sell it on a market with retail investors and accredited investors and so on, we think it's important, first of all, of course, to warn about all the risk of investing in securities. So that's why we have made very strong prospectus that actually informs the investor about the possible risks investing in securities. And we know that there's going to come a lot of regulation that will actually help in the last end. It will help the crypto industry working with securities to have a compliant and set in stone guideline for how to manage selling these assets on the blockchain. So time worked for us, and I think in the beginning, many in the crypto space said, we don't want anything to do with banks. We don't want anything to do with governments. It's just going to be all anarchistic, and I don't think that can work in a real world. I think there has to be regulation. I think we have to find what we call an equilibrium between the different players in the ecosystem, and we have to listen to everybody's needs and try to find what we call a compromise between what we as a crypto industry want and what the regulators want, what the investors need to protect themselves, and in general, a compromise. Only then I think it will have a sustainable future, and that's when really we see the mass adoption, and also the institutional investors going all in on securities blockchain.
That part of what you said, sorry to cut you off, I didn't mean to, but it's part of what you said I really agree with. The being for an increased regulation and the like is a great concern to people like myself who look at Web3 and the decentralized finance aspects of DeFi and the freedom that they give. I know at least 3 businesses, one of whom I was speaking with yesterday, one I was speaking with the other day, and our business, which we are no longer going to be doing our registration and licensing in the EU. Right? They've made it clear that they don't understand the value of it, and they're threatening the existence and the subsistence of these businesses. And if they go that road, or if the US goes that route, it's going to be stifling and crippling. I happen to be moving to Switzerland in about 6 months' time, and Switzerland and their sandbox capability and offering to us, and to be able to set up a non-EU controlled crypto community in a place that's regulated good as opposed to regulated bad for that stuff. So the project I was talking to yesterday, Kevin, these guys are in they're in the US.
Yeah.
They have a play to earn game that they're creating and they're building, and they've been working on for a year. Because they've done it already, their NFT stuff is less under threat, simply because the regulatory environment there is not yet in messed up space. But Binance.us is not the same as Binance anywhere else, right? They can't. And they're not in a crypto friendly state like Montana is better, but they're going to be worried about federal laws there too. But these guys are going to be somebody's moving us around rooms here. These guys are going to be potentially working with us and using our cryptocurrency. To have them unable to do crypto, or to have Germany shut down in the EU, the crypto where I am now, the crypto abilities of companies, it's going to drive companies to the UK, where they have other messed up stuff, and believe me, they aren't nearly as supportive as they sound, because it's basically a police state in so many ways, but they're real good at money laundering in the UK. So countries are going to scare businesses away. They're going to scare businesses underground. We've got a large Chinese community with tudaBirds, and these folks are, to my knowledge, they use VPNs and they go DeFi because that allows them to go around their governments. Nigeria is another good example. They've made it illegal to do crypto trading. They've just fined banks millions of dollars in the past week for allowing accounts to do trading with crypto companies, or allowing crypto companies to have accounts with them. 3 companies I advise down there in the fintech space. Well, 2 in the fintech space, and one I'm an advisor to the board of a small private bank. They can't do anything in the crypto. If they even use the word crypto in a press release, they're going to have the government all over them. And Nigeria is doing this because they want to create the e-naira, which is yet another central bank cryptocurrency, and it's driving all of this people underground, right? If the governments think they can tax and control this way, they can't, right? So it's kind of like saying we're going to outlaw porn on the internet. Well, how? You know, you can go after somebody like Silk Roads, who are letting people, you know, do human trafficking and hire assassins and everything else online, and drug trade and everything else, but it still took them a long time to get those guys. And anybody who's on the dark web, which is the bad side of what can be done out there, the Monero in the DeFi space, where they basically allow you to wash money, that's a bad idea. I'm against that, absolutely. But the other stuff, I mean, there has to be some leeway and flexibility, or countries are going to lose out. So it's a really sticky road to follow, where you don't want to allow people to avoid taxes or evade taxes, rather, but you also can't stop the technology. So the question, I guess, out of all that is, are they doing this because they're afraid and they don't understand and they don't know how to deal with it? Or are they doing this because they want to be in control and they're afraid that this stuff is going to take over? Or are they doing this because all of the big banks are afraid of it, just like they were afraid of fintech, right? There was so much time before these little companies were able to get licensed legally to do payments like they do. Everybody from Revolut through to N26 Bank, they're all legal now, right? And they do stuff by government ways as banks, but there's a bunch that aren't. So why are they doing this, and what results are they going to get from it? That's my confusion, concern, and my issue.
It's completely true, and yeah, it's going to be interesting.
No, yeah, but you're the expert in the securities token space.
Yeah. But you know, as I lay it out, I think we're waiting for the regulators to be, you can say, in consensus with the industry regarding how do we manage this? How do you transfer ownership once you have the security in your hand? You know, right now it's locked to your wallet address and your KYC in that connection. But what if I sell half of my shares, keep the other half? What about, how do I transfer the ownership from wallet to wallet? Those kind of issues, we really have to find out ways to handle. How do you tax the security sales also when you receive and sell? There's a lot of questions that are unanswered, and there is no clear answer for many of the questions right now. When we speak to the legal teams around different jurisdictions, for each lawyer you ask, you will have a different question. And there are so many exceptions that people don't really know what to do with. So in that sense, I think it's something that will take time before we really have a bulletproof framework for how to handle securities on the blockchain. But I know that many are working on it, and I know also that regulation is coming. And yeah, so that
is that a roadblock to your onboarding these non-digital companies? So
we have one blockchain in our mind that we are planning to also work with, and they have been very focused on how to build a compliant blockchain that actually can handle securities. So we are waiting for them to engage with us, but it's going to be very interesting to see if we can get a cooperation up and running. Now our bridge software is ready, so from our side we're ready, but we haven't really engaged with the blockchain company yet. It's called Concordium, but we know for a fact that they have done tremendous work in finding out how to handle securities on the blockchain, and we have read their white paper and done a lot of preparation work. You can also see it if you read our white paper, that we actually suggest that we should be on that blockchain to try to be in front when it comes to selling securities on the blockchain. So that's going to be exciting, and we also wait for several regulators to come back with what their take is on some of the issues that are currently there when you're talking about transfer of ownership, when you talk about which kind of taxation models you should build in and what APIs to be used, because right now there is no answer out there. We would like to have some kind of tax system we could plug into so it automatically calculates your jurisdiction and your tax, but that has not been available yet. So these are some of the questions that still are out there.
Yeah, it's definitely I mean, it's a nascent industry. Everything's going to grow and change, and I don't disagree with you that regulation is coming. I'm still interested in your view about whether or not the regulations that are coming to protect the scared? Are they so many things that you hear about what they've done in America is they keep saying the reason is to protect the little guy, to protect the little consumer. And the answer from a lot of people in the DeFi space is no, it feels more like you're doing this to protect the big guys that are rich and the little guys from having a chance. And I agree about the scam part, right? But I mean, sorry, they didn't protect anybody from Bernie Madoff, and they didn't protect anybody from Trump University. Any other scam that I can possibly think of, those two just pop into mind for some reason. So, you know, to say that they're doing it to protect the little people when they don't do a lot to protect the little people, it still feels to me like it's a way to keep the little people little.
Yeah.
And that's always a concern, I think.
I completely agree with you, Daniel. And I also think that there are many interests that are in higher priority of being protected. And here I'm thinking about the current fiat controllers who sees crypto as a disturbing element. And it's no secret that the US have a clear strategy of protecting the US dollar. And every country have a clear strategy of protecting their national currency. So any digital currency that can compete against a national currency is by default something that the government looks very, you can say, very much into and will try to control. And regulation is about controlling. And I don't think they hide that motive. So what we just have to find out is how can the government have some control so that, you know, things go right and we don't have drug dealers using professional companies' infrastructure to do their business. And at the same time, how do we protect the individual small business owner and the people's right to freedom, basically? And that's where I think we need to find that equilibrium, and that's what we should work against. And it's a very easy exercise to do, actually, and it is to define each of the players in the ecosystems, their different goals, and then you calculate in a game theoretic compromise between all these priorities, and that's how you find the solution. So,
well, see what? Sorry, but one of the arguments there is when you say the drug dealers, and it could be the arms dealers or the money traffickers or the human traffickers. Well, I'm sorry, but to get your money into crypto, you have to go through a bank, right? Unless you do some deal in a backwoods hotel room or a bag of money with somebody else who's doing a direct transfer, which does happen. but not even remotely as much as that happens with money stuff. But if you want to put $1 million into crypto, you've got to put $1 million through a bank or through a centralized exchange to get it into crypto. Right now, once it's in there, it's trackable, it's controllable, and you have to have been KYC AML to have gotten there in the first place. Right. So the onboarding into the crypto space is a lot more complicated than it is to, meet me in a dark alley and exchange a big bag of cocaine for a big bag of money. Right. You can't necessarily do that the same way. And if you do that with crypto, you are transacting from one wallet to another. And every single one of those transactions is immutable. It is there. It is stored forever, right? If you and I do that in the back alley and there's no cameras and nobody sees our cars or our faces or anything that we're doing, nobody ever knows. But if we do that in the back alley and I transfer from my Ledger wallet to your Trust Pocket or your MetaMask, then that transaction is there. So when you start to do stuff, or when something gets done that's untoward with it, or you pay off another bad guy, right? Ultimately, when the police or the Interpol or whoever get their fingers in and start looking, from the point you enter the blockchain, you are trackable. Like these guys that are doing ransomware are back to asking for bags of money or transfers of gold because they're getting hunted down and caught when they're doing it with crypto. So crypto actually provides a better answer on all of those things. So
it does.
Again, why are they afraid of this? Why they're doing it the wrong way,
Completely agree, Daniel. Completely agree. And that's why the open ledger technology is such a great invention, because it leaves out any doubt about the settlement of a given transaction. But at the same time, it leaves the privacy intact. So I love working with blockchain, and I think we have to remember one more thing, and that is that 97% of the world population have not yet tried to actually make a transfer. They don't even have a wallet, Daniel. So it's really early days still. We have to remember it's really early days, and it's going to take a lot of education, a lot of installation and onboarding service to get the world completely on the blockchain.
Yeah, but that 97% of the world, they all have a phone, right? Mm-hmm. A huge amount of those people are already unbanked. And why are they unbanked? They're unbanked because of either the emerging nations that they're living in preventing it, or the non-emerging nations that they're living in requiring them to have more ID and so on. The voting controls and everything else are very similar to the banking controls, but everybody with the installation of an app on their phone and holding their own security the same way as they would their PIN, except it's more secure, right? They have this access. Our Chinese community, we're saying yesterday, somebody was saying, they aren't doing Web3 yet because their MetaNest account to play Birdtris, our Tetris game, they're saying you have to log in on that with a user ID and a password.
That's right.
Yeah, but what we've done is you create that account with a wallet, right? You do a signed Web3 transaction to do that. And our internal wallet, where you move your crypto into gems that we hold for you, you play with those gems in the game, but you can play them in your browser. You can play them on any computer that doesn't have a wallet. You can play them in Chrome on your phone instead of inside the very limited browsers inside of the wallets, which are restrictive for a lot of stuff like graphics. And you do not have to have an ongoing connection to the blockchain or your wallet to a site. And those ongoing connections to the blockchain, to the wallet on your site, is something that a bunch of people in this room with us right now might not even know. But as I told the Chinese group yesterday, when I am done doing business on a site, I go into my wallet and I disconnect from it. If you go to any of the wallets that I have, any of the accounts that I have, none of them are connected to even our own account at OpenSea or Galler, where we have our NFTs posted, the wallet that we have for our funds that are the project wallets and the like, none of them are connected to any sites, because that's the way that these things can be exploited. So we've created a capability that uses Web 2 type stuff to protect people from the scams from the Web3 type stuff. People don't even get that. They think, oh, you have to log in, so it's not as good connecting my wallet. But
Daniel, I want to say thank you so much for setting this up. It was a great talk, and to everybody, TudaBirds and BACD are going to do some amazing things going forward. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we are listing on Pink Sale here the 14th. Please go and buy little BACD tokens. We will also invest in TudaBirds, so please help us. And we thank you all for listening to us, and we'll be in touch. I have a new meeting coming, so I have to go. But it was
I just noticed the time. We are up at the hour, so not a problem at all, Kevin. Really glad that you could join us. Thanks very much.
And what an amazing metaverse you have created here, Daniel and team. Well done.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be recording, or this has been recorded. We'll post it on YouTube if anybody who wasn't able to attend wants to follow up and hear Kevin's wisdom. So thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Kevin. Sorry we didn't have your camera working, but we'll get you on screen next time.
Fantastic.
Ciao, everybody.
Ciao.